Your soul has always known the truth. It's your mind that forgot. From the moment you were born, the world started rewriting your memory. They gave you a name, a culture, a role. They filled your head with rules, expectations, and fears that drowned out the ancient voice within you. And before you could even question it, you became a stranger to your own soul. But what if the reason you've always felt like something was missing, like you were meant for something more, is because your soul came here with a mission that's been buried under lifetimes of noise? The Akashic records hold the blueprint of your being, the memory of who you were before they told you who to be. These records aren't just ancient scrolls floating in some mystical cloud. They're encoded in your energy, your emotions, your patterns, and they're calling you back. It's time to remember what was never truly lost. You were never meant to forget who you are, but forgetting is the first thing this world teaches you. The moment you entered this life, you stepped into a system built on distraction, fear, and limitation. They told you to trust logic over intuition, achievement over alignment, obedience over inner truth. They fed you stories about who you're supposed to be, where you're allowed to go, and what defines a successful life. But beneath all that noise, beneath the conditioning, the roles, the expectations, is a deeper intelligence that never forgot. That's your soul. The Akashic records hold every choice, thought, emotion, and contract your soul has ever made across lifetimes. It's not just a mystical library. It's a living memory field, a mirror to your eternal identity. And yet, from a young age, you were taught to doubt your own reflection. You were told to ignore the whispers of inner knowing, to bury your dreams in practicality, to question your worth based on grades, status, and social validation. That was never by accident. It was the beginning of your disconnection. You see, the forgetting didn't just happen once. It's a pattern carried over lifetimes. Karmic loops, unfinished soul contracts, and emotional imprints from your past incarnations didn't vanish when you were born. They came with you, wrapped in silence. And if you've ever felt haunted by fears you can't explain, drawn to people or places you've never been, or stuck in emotional cycles you can't seem to break, that's your soul memory trying to reach you. You're not just reacting to your current life. You're responding to energy your soul has carried for centuries. The most dangerous part? No one told you any of this. You've been made to believe your struggles are flaws, your wounds are weaknesses, and your patterns are just who you are. But they're not. They're echoes. They're residue from choices you didn't consciously make in this lifetime, but your soul did. Before you came here, your soul agreed to certain lessons, certain relationships, certain experiences, not for punishment, but for evolution. These are your soul contracts, agreements made before birth, crafted to help you grow. But when you forget the agreement, the lesson becomes suffering instead of transformation. This forgetting is not your fault. It's by design. The modern world isn't built to support spiritual memory. It's built to suppress it. That's why remembering who you are feels like rebellion. That's why reconnecting to your true purpose feels like waking up in a place where everyone else is still asleep. But here's what they don't want you to know. You have access to your Akashic memory right now. It's not locked away in some sacred cave. It's in your dreams, your intuition, your emotional triggers. It's coded into the questions you can't stop asking. And it begins to open the moment you stop believing the lie that you are lost. Some truths are too deep and too dangerous to share here. If you're ready to go beyond what YouTube allows, join Insights Academy using the link below and get a free copy of the Kybalion while it's still available. Reconnection starts with curiosity. When you begin to ask, not just, what's wrong with me, but what is my soul trying to show me? You open the door to everything they tried to keep you from. The Akashic field doesn't just reveal information. It reveals liberation. It shows you the origin of your pain, the shape of your purpose, the timelines you abandoned, and the gifts you forgot. And once you remember, you can't unsee it. You start to realize that every major moment in your life, the highs, the heartbreaks, the endings, were never random. They were markers on your soul's map. markers leading you back to yourself. The truth is, you didn't come here to play small, follow rules, or live someone else's script. You came here to remember your mission, reclaim your energy, and activate the version of you that already exists beyond limitation. And the Akashic records, they're not just about the past, they're the key to unlocking that future. There's a reason you keep finding yourself in the same emotional patterns, no matter how much you try to change. The same relationships that leave you feeling drained. The same situations that make you feel small. The same wounds that get triggered over and over again. It's not bad luck, poor choices, or some flaw in your personality. It's deeper than that. These cycles are energetic echoes, reverberations of unfinished soul lessons, karmic ties, and unresolved patterns carried through lifetimes. And until they're seen, understood, and released, they'll keep showing up disguised as your life. What most people don't realize is that not every emotion you feel is yours, not in the way you think. Some of them are inherited, not just from your childhood, but from previous versions of you. Past incarnations where you couldn't speak your truth, where you were betrayed, silenced, or punished for your gifts, where you died with unresolved pain. That energy doesn't just vanish. It imprints itself in your soul's memory and follows you like a shadow, influencing your choices, your reactions, and the kind of people you attract. That's why healing in this lifetime feels so overwhelming sometimes. Because you're not just healing for the present, you're healing across timelines. And then there are the soul contracts. Agreements made before birth, written in energy, not ink. You chose certain souls to meet again in this life, some to support you, others to challenge you. The hard truth is that not every soulmate comes to comfort you. Some come to confront you, to activate the lessons you agreed to learn. You may feel an intense pull toward them. Like gravity, you can't resist. But often, the more magnetic the connection, the deeper the karmic work beneath it. These relationships push buttons you didn't know you had because they're designed to help you evolve, even when it feels like they're breaking you. But it's not just people, it's places too. Ever felt drawn to a city or a piece of land for no reason? Or had the urge to avoid somewhere without understanding why? That's a soul memory. You may have lived, suffered, or experienced something sacred in that place in another life. Energy imprints itself not just in people, but in physical locations. And your soul remembers, even when your mind doesn't. Then there are the energetic cords. These are not visible, but they are real. You can feel them. Those unseen threads that bind you to past lovers, family members, even people you barely knew but can't seem to forget. If someone lives in your head rent-free, if their voice still echoes in your choices, if thinking about them drains your energy or reignites a wound, you're likely still corded. And as long as that cord exists, they have access to your field. It's not about blame, it's about energy. And once you understand how energy moves, you stop seeing healing as a mystery and start seeing it as a process of conscious detachment. The most dangerous lie you were taught is that your emotional pain is just how life is, that it's something to suppress, numb, or escape. But pain is data. It's information from the soul, a signal. And when you look at it through the lens of the Akashic records, everything starts to make sense. The triggers, the patterns, the sabotage, it all comes back to energy you haven't cleared yet. You're not cursed, and you're not broken. You're entangled. But you can unhook yourself. This is the moment you stop asking, why does this keep happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That one shift unlocks everything, because every emotional loop contains a hidden invitation to evolve. Every time you feel stuck, you're actually standing at the edge of a soul breakthrough. The pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. And if you ignore it, it repeats. But if you face it, it transforms. You didn't come here to suffer. You came here to break patterns that have held you back for lifetimes. And you have the tools to do it. You just haven't been taught how to see them yet. But the truth is beginning to rise. The cycles are not your prison. They're your portal. And once you choose to see them that way, everything begins to change. Before you were born, before your body had form and your name had sound, your soul chose this life. Not by chance, not because it had to, but because it wanted to evolve, to expand, to experience something only this exact timeline could offer. And whether you believe it yet or not, this life, your challenges, your dreams, your strange attractions and painful setbacks, was not random. It was chosen with purpose. You're not here to survive a meaningless cycle. You're here to master something sacred. And the clues to what that is have been whispering to you your entire life. Most people walk through life feeling like they're constantly reacting, putting out emotional fires, healing from one thing only to be thrown into another. But when you look at your life through the lens of your soul, not your ego, it stops being a series of problems and starts looking like a classroom. Everything shifts. The betrayals, a mirror for your boundaries. The delays, a lesson in patience. The heartbreaks, an invitation to learn self-worth. These aren't accidents. They're lessons your soul signed up for, again and again, until mastery is achieved. That mastery isn't found in being perfect. It's found in remembering the truth of who you are, even in the face of forgetfulness. Remembering your power when everything around you feels disempowering. Each soul comes into this world with specific themes to work through, lessons encoded in your energetic DNA. For some, it's learning to speak truth after lifetimes of silence. For others, it's learning trust after betrayal, or compassion after being hardened by pain. And sometimes, it's learning to hold joy without guilt. These lessons don't always come wrapped in light. They often arrive disguised as the very things that break you. Because nothing cracks you open faster than pain. But inside that cracking open is access. You begin to feel things you buried. You begin to ask questions that don't have easy answers. That's the soul awakening. You can't master what you're not willing to face. And mastery doesn't mean the pain disappears. It means you move through it differently, with awareness, with power, with alignment. And alignment is everything. When you're out of alignment with your soul, everything feels like resistance. Work becomes heavy. Relationships become confusing. Even your body starts to speak in symptoms and dis-ease. But when you're aligned, even if life isn't perfect, there's clarity. You move differently. You stop chasing, stop forcing, and start attracting. You stop proving your worth and start embodying it. Every soul has gifts that support this path of mastery: intuition, healing, creativity, communication. Some call them talents, others call them callings, but at the soul level, they're tools. And when you activate them, when you trust them, they help you move through this life with a power most people don't even realize they have. But they've always been there, waiting for you to stop dimming, doubting, or dismissing them as not enough. And then there's divine timing, a concept so misunderstood in a world obsessed with control. You think things are late, you think you're behind, but your soul doesn't measure growth in months or milestones. It moves in energy. Some of your dreams haven't arrived yet because the version of you they're meant for is still unfolding. Your soul isn't in a rush, it's in devotion. Devotion to your evolution, devotion to your remembering, devotion to the version of you that stands in mastery instead of survival. You didn't come here to live a life that looks good, but feels hollow. You came to master something timeless, to alchemize your wounds into wisdom, your pain into power, and your story into truth. You didn't forget by mistake. You forgot so the act of remembering could become your awakening. That's the path of mastery. That's what your soul came here for. Your soul didn't arrive empty-handed. It came here with codes, energetic blueprints, gifts, and tools that are uniquely yours. But they're not flashy superpowers or surface-level talents. They're deeper, quieter, and more sacred than that. And the reason you haven't fully activated them yet isn't because they're not there. It's because the world taught you to doubt them, to ignore them, to think of them as weaknesses instead of strengths. The system praised logic but punished intuition. It rewarded obedience, not insight. So your gifts were pushed underground, buried beneath layers of shame, doubt, and survival mode. But they never left you. They're still waiting to be unlocked. Some people feel this as a longing they can't quite name, a persistent sense that they were meant for more. Others feel it as sensitivity they've been told to suppress, a deep emotional attunement, vivid dreams, flashes of knowing that don't make logical sense. These aren't accidents. They're your soul speaking. And the reason they feel inconvenient in a world obsessed with certainty is because they operate on a frequency that's higher than fear. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to remember. Your energy field holds the key. It's not just a spiritual concept, it's a real, living interface between your soul and the physical world. And over time, that field collects blocks, emotional debris, other people's energy, past life residue. All of it clogs the signal. That's why you sometimes feel disconnected, foggy, or energetically off. It's not that your gifts have disappeared. It's that they're trying to move through a field that's overloaded with noise. You don't need to force clarity. You need to clear space. That's where activation begins. Not with doing more, but with unlearning what dims your light. It's about releasing the fear of being seen, the fear of being too much or not enough. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that were shamed into silence. When you begin to clear your energy through breath, movement, intention, or deep emotional work, you create space for your soul to take up more room. And when your soul takes up more room, your gifts start to rise, effortlessly. One of the first signs of activation is amplified intuition. It's that quiet knowing that cuts through noise like a blade. You'll feel it when something is off, even if you can't explain why. You'll feel it when you're guided towards something and can't quite name the pull. You'll see it in symbols, patterns, synchronicities that seem to speak directly to you. This isn't fantasy. This is soul communication. And once you recognize it, your relationship with the world changes. Life stops feeling random. It starts feeling like a dialogue. Dreams become messages. Emotions become teachers. Your body becomes a tuning fork. And your reality begins to shift, not because you're escaping it, but because you're co-creating it from a higher frequency. When you stop doubting your spiritual senses, you stop needing external permission. You move in alignment with something ancient, something true. There is no one-size-fits-all path to spiritual activation. Your soul speaks its own language. For some, it's felt through nature. For others, through art, sound, energy healing, deep conversation, or solitude. The method isn't the point. The presence is. The more you show up as your raw, unfiltered self, the louder your gifts become. Not in volume, but in clarity. And you'll notice that life responds differently to you when you're aligned. Opportunities open, resistance drops, the right people appear. That's not a coincidence. That's energy matching energy. But activation isn't just about you. When you step into your gifts, you create space for others to do the same. Your presence becomes permission. Your authenticity becomes a signal. And suddenly, you're not just healing yourself, you're participating in a much bigger shift. A soul-led revolution where truth, creativity, and energetic alignment are more valuable than credentials, followers, or titles. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment. You don't have to be fully healed. You just have to say yes. Yes to remembering. Yes to releasing. Yes to letting your soul lead. Because your gifts aren't hiding from you. They're waiting for you to stop hiding from them. No one tells you that awakening often begins in the dark. It doesn't start with light and clarity. It starts with confusion, heartbreak, loss. The moment when something you trusted breaks. The moment when what once felt safe no longer fits. That pain, that sudden shift that cracked your world open, that was the doorway. Pain is not the enemy, it's the invitation. And if you trace it back, you'll find that some of your greatest transformations didn't begin in peace. They began when you were brought to your knees. There's a deeper reason your pain runs so deep. It's not just about this life. It's not just about what happened last year, or the breakup that shook you, or the job that left you feeling worthless. Your soul has felt this ache before. You've carried wounds from lifetimes where you weren't allowed to speak, to love, to lead. Lifetimes where your truth was dangerous, your power was punished, your light was too much for the world around you. That weight is still in your field, that grief, that rage, that longing. It's not random, it's a memory. And the thing is, your soul chose this, not because it enjoys suffering, but because pain creates cracks. And through those cracks, light gets in, the light of awareness, of deeper truths, of timelines you couldn't see while everything felt comfortable. Most people don't awaken when life is easy. They awaken when it falls apart. That's not a design flaw, it's a design feature. Because discomfort forces questions. It disrupts the script, and that disruption is sacred. You may have found yourself asking, why me? Or, what did I do to deserve this? But maybe the better question is, what is this pain trying to wake up in me? Because within every breakdown is a breakthrough. And while it doesn't always come quickly, it always comes when you're willing to stop running from the discomfort and start listening to it. Your soul uses pain as a compass, not to punish, but to redirect, to shake you out of old identities and push you toward your highest expression. The job that made you miserable? It wasn't a mistake. It was a mirror. The relationship that broke your heart? It wasn't failure, it was feedback. Pain strips away the noise. It forces you to see what you've outgrown. And in that space of rawness, something ancient stirs. That's the real you. The version that's not built on survival or validation. The version that doesn't beg to be loved because it remembers that love is its essence. Even physical pain has a root. The body stores what the soul hasn't released. Migraines, fatigue, tension, gut issues. These can be echoes of emotional or energetic blockages, unresolved grief, suppressed rage, ancestral burdens. You're not imagining it, you're embodying it. Your pain isn't just a symptom, it's a signal. And when you follow that signal all the way down, you find the part of you that got silenced, ignored, or exiled. You find the part of you that's been waiting to come home. And then comes the shift. Not the kind that erases pain, but the kind that reframes it. You begin to understand that the fire you walked through wasn't just destruction, it was alchemy. You didn't get burned, you got refined. You didn't break, you broke open. And now, there's space for something new, something real. So if you're in the pain right now, or if you're carrying the weight of pain you've never fully faced, know this: it's not too late. Your soul isn't asking you to be fearless. It's asking you to be honest, to sit with what hurts, to trust that something beautiful is being built in the ashes of what fell apart. Because pain doesn't mean you're off your path. Sometimes it means you're finally on it. There's a memory inside you that doesn't speak in words. It moves in symbols, sensations, and subtle whispers. It's the quiet knowing that arrives before logic kicks in. It's the pull you feel toward people you've never met, or the déjà vu that strikes in a place you've never been. It's the moment a dream lingers longer than it should, carrying a message you can't quite explain. That's not your imagination. That's your soul remembering. Long before this lifetime, long before this version of you was born, your soul carried codes, fragments of truth, wisdom, and identity that still live within your energy field. And they've been trying to reach you. You don't need a psychic to tell you who you are. Your soul already knows. The Akashic records aren't some exclusive vault locked away in a celestial cloud. They are embedded in your being. Every cell in your body, every emotion that moves through you, every intuitive nudge is connected to that field of memory. But society taught you to value what's proven, what's visible, what can be measured. So you dismissed those feelings as coincidence. You pushed them away in favor of logic. And in doing so, you turned down the volume on your soul. But your soul has always found a way to speak, through art, through nature, through music that feels like home, even if you've never heard it before, through a phrase in a book that jumps off the page as if it was written just for you. These are not random. They're triggers, activators. They're fragments of a language older than speech, the language of soul memory, a language you were fluent in before this world made you forget. Have you ever wondered why you're drawn to a certain era of history? Why certain spiritual paths feel familiar, even if you've never studied them? Or why some people feel instantly significant, like you've known them far longer than this life allows? That's because you have. The Akashic field contains records of every incarnation your soul has lived, every lesson, every connection, every promise. And some of those memories leak through, not to haunt you, but to help you remember who you really are. This is why you can't fake alignment. No matter how much you achieve on the outside, if you're disconnected from your soul's truth, something will always feel off, misaligned, hollow. You'll chase purpose, but never feel fulfilled. Because your purpose isn't something you find. It's something you remember. It's already there, buried beneath the noise of shoulds, expectations, and conditioning. And when you start stripping those layers away, you don't become someone new, you return to who you've always been. Your soul's memory doesn't just contain where you've been. It contains where you're going. It holds future timelines that are already possible, waiting for you to choose them. That's the power of remembrance. It's not nostalgia, it's navigation. And the more you align with that remembrance, the more your outer life begins to reflect your inner truth. Synchronicities increase, decisions become clearer, the right people appear. It's not magic, it's memory. Soul-level memory, finally flowing without resistance. So if you've ever felt like you're waking up from a long sleep, if you've ever felt like the world you were taught doesn't match the world you feel inside, you're not going crazy, you're remembering. And in that remembering, you reclaim power that was never truly lost. It was simply waiting, waiting for you to stop doubting, waiting for you to stop settling, waiting for you to say, I know there's more to me than this, because there is, and you've known it all along. Spiritual awakening isn't all love and light. It's raw, disorienting, and sometimes feels like the entire ground beneath you has disappeared. One day you're living a life that looks fine on the outside, and the next you can't recognize yourself. What used to make sense doesn't anymore. The goals you once chased feel hollow. The relationships that kept you anchored start to feel misaligned. And while your soul is expanding, your nervous system is screaming. That's the part no one talks about. Awakening breaks you open, and at first it feels like you're falling apart. You might feel exhausted for no reason, overstimulated in crowds, detached from the people you once loved being around. Sleep becomes erratic. Emotions swing between clarity and confusion, joy and grief. Old memories rise to the surface without warning, and you might start seeing repeating numbers, strange dreams, or synchronicities that feel too specific to be random. These aren't coincidences. They're symptoms of your soul shedding the old and realigning with the true. Your body is trying to catch up with your soul. That's why it hurts. That's why you feel so stretched, because you're expanding beyond the framework of your old life. You're not just processing the emotions of today, you're purging the suppressed weight of years, maybe lifetimes. It's not just a breakdown, it's a system reboot. And yes, it's messy. Awakening will dismantle everything you thought was you, so you can meet who you've always been beneath it. You're not alone in this. Many people go through this awakening quietly, silently questioning if they're going crazy, because they don't have the words or the support to name what's happening. That silence keeps people stuck in confusion when they're on the edge of something sacred. But here's what you need to know. What you're feeling is valid. What you're experiencing has a purpose, and it will pass if you don't suppress it. This is where your guides come in. Your spirit team, higher self, ancestors, whatever language resonates with you. are always communicating, but awakening heightens your sensitivity to them. They speak through signs, intuition, chance encounters, sudden insights. And when you're in the thick of the storm, you're not expected to have it all figured out. You're just being asked to listen, not to your fear, to your knowing, to the voice beneath the panic. That voice will never lead you to abandon yourself. There may be moments where you question everything, your purpose, your sanity, your direction. That's natural. Doubt is part of the shedding. But don't make the mistake of assuming that just because the process is hard, it's wrong. The cocoon is meant to feel tight, confusing, even painful, but it's also temporary, and the version of you emerging from it is nothing short of divine. So give yourself grace, rest if you need to, say no without guilt, be still. Your energy is rewiring, your frequency is shifting, and the parts of your life that can't match that new frequency will naturally fall away. Let them. Don't chase what's already crumbling. Don't shrink to fit where you've outgrown. This is a sacred unraveling, a divine reconstruction. One day, the confusion will fade, the heaviness will lift, and you'll realize that all this time, the chaos wasn't a detour, it was the path. You weren't falling behind. You were finally catching up to your soul. This is the moment the dust begins to settle, and through it, you'll begin to see clearly for the first time, not with your eyes, but with your essence. You didn't come here to fit in. You came here to lead, not from ego, not from force, but from alignment. True leadership doesn't look like standing on a stage or having followers. It looks like living in integrity with your soul's truth, even when the world around you doesn't understand. Alignment is the ultimate power. It's the moment you stop compromising your energy to keep the peace. Stop diluting your truth to be accepted, and stop chasing success based on someone else's definition. Because when you're aligned, life doesn't just respond, it shifts. The path of soul power isn't loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It speaks in quiet confidence, in grounded choices, in the way you hold your boundaries and honor your values. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. And when you begin to lead from that space, you stop reacting to life and start creating it. Your decisions stop being driven by fear or pressure and start flowing from clarity. That clarity isn't always comfortable, but it's always honest. The Akashic records show us that power doesn't come from control. It comes from coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, energy, and actions are in sync with your soul's blueprint, you enter what some call flow, but it's more than that. It's soul resonance. You're no longer at war with yourself. You no longer have to justify your desires or explain your intuition. You just know. You move with quiet certainty. You attract the people, opportunities, and timelines that match your truth, not your conditioning. Your purpose isn't a job title or a 5-step plan. It's a frequency, a way of being. And it's unique to you. You don't have to be anyone else. In fact, trying to mimic someone else's path only creates distortion in your energy field. Your path is encoded within you. It's found in what lights you up and what breaks your heart, in what you're drawn to and what you're here to transform. Purpose is not something you hustle for. It's something you remember, something you choose to embody moment by moment. This embodiment is leadership, soul leadership, and the world needs it now more than ever. Not the kind of leadership rooted in hierarchy or ego, but the kind that brings truth into spaces where people have forgotten it. You become the reminder, you become the mirror, not by preaching, but by being. And when you live from this space, others feel it. They might not understand it, but they'll remember something in themselves because of your presence. That's soul leadership. That's impact beyond words. You weren't meant to wait for permission. You were meant to rise, and that rise begins the moment you decide to trust your soul over your fear, to trust the path that feels true, even if it's uncertain, to lead, even if no one is watching yet, because alignment is magnetic. And when you're aligned, the right people will find you, the right opportunities will appear, not because you're chasing, but because you're finally radiating who you really are. The Akashic records don't just tell you where you've been, they remind you of who you came here to be. A guide, a disruptor, a healer, a visionary, someone who doesn't just speak about truth, but lives it. And that's not a future you need to earn. It's a frequency you can choose, right now. You were never lost. You were layered, covered in stories that were never yours, expectations that drained your spirit, beliefs that dimmed your light. But beneath it all, the real you never left. The version of you that remembers, the version that knows, that trusts, that leads, that creates not from fear or validation, but from alignment and love. The truth is, you were never broken. You were buried. And now, you're uncovering what was always there. The Akashic records don't give you a new identity. They strip away the false ones. They don't hand you a mission. You've had that all along. What they offer is reflection, a way to finally see yourself clearly again, to understand the pain with purpose, to connect the chaos with your growth, to finally say, this is why I went through all of that. Your soul doesn't operate in straight lines. It speaks in spirals, in returns, in echoes, and it's been guiding you back to yourself the entire time. You've been told that the answers are out there, somewhere in the future, in a certification, in someone else's approval. But the real answers are encoded within your being. They're not locked behind a paywall. They live in your intuition, in the quiet moments, in the parts of you that were dismissed or doubted by a world that fears anything it can't control. But your soul can't be boxed in. It can't be tamed or silenced forever. Eventually, it begins to rise. Through the cracks, through the grief, through the hunger for something real. This journey you're on, it's not about becoming spiritual. You already are. It's not about becoming worthy. You already were. It's about removing the distortion, about unlearning the lies, about returning to a way of living that honors your energy instead of draining it, your truth instead of hiding it. And from that place, you don't just change your life, you shift timelines. You collapse lifetimes of karma with a single moment of awareness. You become the one who ends the cycles, the one who leads differently, loves differently, lives differently. You don't have to carry it all anymore. The guilt, the shame, the fear of being too much or never enough. That was never yours to hold. And as you release it, you make space. Space for clarity, for connection, for divine alignment. And in that space, something sacred returns. Not from above, but from within. The feeling that you are home. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself to make others comfortable. The awakening you're experiencing isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of a life led from the soul, not from survival, from trust, not tension, from expansion, not contraction. And the most powerful thing about that is this: you don't need anyone's permission to begin. You already have everything you need. The answers, the timing, the tools, all waiting to be remembered. You don't have to walk this path alone. There's more waiting for you in the spaces they can't censor. If you haven't joined Insights Academy yet, you're not just missing out, you're leaving truth on the table. Tap the link below and claim your free copy of the Kybalion while it's still available. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it,"